You're tuning in to Why We're Here, honest conversations about companies worth joining, with Amit Matani, CEO of Wellfound.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Brian Schiff, the co-founder and CEO of Flip. Brian, thanks for joining me.
Very excited to be here.
So tell me a little bit about Flip. What do you all do?
You know those robots that you get when you call customer service and you're like, God, it's asking me to press all these buttons and do all these things. And it's like, how is it 2025 and this is so bad? We replace those with a modern voice AI experience, right? I'm sure that you've either seen videos or talked to some modern voice AIs. So we're doing that very specifically for a couple of industries. Retail and e-commerce is the main area, as well as transportation. And we've got a third vertical on the way. And it's just over the phone. It's just for those specific industries. And that focus allows us to build a solution that companies in those spaces can step in, turn it on really easily, and get amazing results from day one.
That's awesome.
So I always tell people, if you ever call a brand and you're like, whoa, this robot is like totally different and really good, probably Flip.
Nice. Tell me a little bit about the founding story. I looked on your website and it seems like you guys started with an idea, pivoted a little bit. Give me the story. I want to hear about it.
Yeah. Met my co-founder when we were undergrads in school. He had actually started a business in high school with the kid who lived in the dorm room next to me freshman year. I had I always tell people, I didn't even know what a startup was when I showed up at school. Thought it was the coolest thing ever, got a hold of him, convinced him to stop doing that other thing he was doing. We spent the early part of college building Uber was blowing up 2015 to 18. But it wasn't allowed in upstate New York, legally. So we were like, hey, we'll just build the Uber for Cornell and work with the taxi companies. Did it at Cornell, brought it to a bunch of other schools, had a ton of fun. But then we were like, okay, what from here? Alexa was starting to come of age and was, voice tech was having sort of its first moment, or at least, its moment before the ChatGPT moment. And we were like, hey, this tech's not perfect, but it's way better than those robots you get when you call. So we trotted back down to the taxi owner's office and we were like, hey, that app thing that we've done, it's been good, but we've got something new for you. And we know all these calls you're receiving and we think we can automate most of them. So started there, really proved out the concept over the next couple of years in the taxi and ground transportation space, where we, automate millions of calls every week for fleets of vehicles around the globe today. And then 2022 raised $10 million to go after retail and e-commerce. Been building ever since.
Talk to me a little bit, because this is really interesting to me, because you all, like you said, you were there in that Alexa moment, that kind of V1 of voice getting exciting, but now we're in V2, right? And so how has that affected how you all build? Have you kind of had to rip everything out and start over? What did that look like for you all?
Yeah, everybody talks about is it skill? Is it luck? The reality is you need such an abundance of both. We've had moments of luck going all the way back to the Uber knockoff days, but the biggest stroke of luck was just being in the right moment at the right time when LLMs came into existence and commercial readiness. Impactful, absolutely, from a product standpoint. Right. The being able to tap into that kind of intelligence and more every day, it is that magical combination of quality, speed, and cost effectiveness that allows you to really use it at scale in production. But it's equally been impactful in terms of market awareness and excitement around using this type of technology. When we started doing this 5 years ago, the idea that AI was going to automate most of your support calls, that was controversial. That was not a commonly held and accepted and exciting vision for the future. And it's really hard to go and change hearts and minds by yourself. And everything that's happened with AI in the last 24 months has just done an amazing amount of marketing for us at that level.
So it seems like there's a huge amount of tailwind of just user acceptance. People are talking about AI interviews. They're talking about AI phone calls for everything. So that's great for you guys. But how does that translate also in terms of barrier to entry? I'm sure it was a lot harder for competitors to start years ago. Now maybe easier. How do you guys think about your business in that format?
I think that any big mature category has a lot of companies in it, and the dynamics usually play out such that there's a handful of players that really sort of own and are synonymous with the market. And then there's, niches and bolt-ons to other sort of products and all of that stuff. And I think that, we feel a great spot to be one of those couple of companies that really, we want to build a household name. And there's going to be companies coming out of this category that are that, and it's there for us to go and take.
You mentioned that being able to focus on specific verticals allows you to kind of really differentiate. Can you talk to me a little bit about like what that looks like and how you guys come up with those ideas of, the differentiation?
Yeah, if you think about the anatomy of this product and of these conversations that we're automating, there's really three core components, right? There is absolutely like the AI layer and being able to understand people. Everybody has access to the same models. There's a lot around how are you sort of orchestrating and using these things, but that underlying model layer is obviously widely available. Then the second layer of it is the workflows, and the third layer of it are the integrations, right? So you can imagine a situation where somebody is calling in and they want to cancel an order. And there's a very specific workflow that brand has in order to determine whether that order can be canceled, and then what steps need to be taken in order to complete that cancellation, and then what systems ultimately need to be updated with what information to actually execute that cancellation. So having those workflows built out, having them easily configurable for the ways in which they will vary from one brand to another, and then having the integration with those systems that today the agents are using in order to execute those actions, being able to do that automatically. Otherwise, you get stuck with, another robot that sort of sounds nice but has very little utility.
Makes sense.
The magic is in, can you actually solve the problems that people are calling for?
For these integrations, do you guys have to go in and custom build it for each company, or are there kind of off-the-shelf solutions that everybody now uses?
Yeah, so if you think about retail e-commerce, the core system that you need to integrate with is the order management system. Yeah. So it's Shopify, it's Salesforce, and those sorts of folks. We work with a lot of subscription brands. There's like a suite of subscription platforms that retailers use. Same thing for returns. So each of these sort of, you can almost map the categories of topics that people are calling for to the underlying SaaS tool that brand is using and hundreds of other brands are using in order to execute those actions, modify subscriptions, appointments, everything. Yeah. So it's not that we're, more often than not, the tools that we need to be integrated with to support the next brand are a set of tools, right? Their tech stack is one that we're already plugged into.
Makes sense.
But it is absolutely the more integrations a customer turns on with Flip, the better the results will be. So if you, start with, hey, I've got no integrations and I'm just going to let you answer some basic questions and whatnot, you're going to get very little out of it. You introduce the OMS integration, suddenly you're going to get a lot more out of it. You add on a returns and integration and all of these other sort of categories, and it gets more and more powerful. So it's
super interesting because it's not just kind of the voice tailwind you guys have, but it's also the fact that there's also a lot of these e-commerce platforms now. Otherwise, you would have had to essentially build custom software for every single company, and now you don't have to do that, which is really cool. So tell me, what's the pitch to candidates? Why is Flip a great place to work?
People love or hate their job based on primarily two things. One, who are they working with and what culture are they working in? And two, what are they working on? And we philosophically as a leadership team and as a company believe that post-product market fit in this scale-up stage of the journey, the most important thing that we're building is the team. And thus, the team and as the company goes from a couple of founders to a couple thousand employees, with each hire that comes on, the percent of the total company work that is done by the founders goes down and down and down and down and down. So where's the leverage? The leverage is in the people that you have doing the work and the culture that you have them operating in. So team is at an absolute premium, and it is a North Star of the organization that the team should be the best thing that we're building. So I think that is sort of part one. And I think that when we talk to candidates, and it's not about talking to me or talking to my co-founder. It's about talking to the people that you'll be working with every day and hearing how they talk about the business, hearing the passion that they have for what they're working on and their experience at the company. And then the second leg of the stool is what are you building? And I always tell people, like, you or I could hang up this call. We could walk outside, put a microphone in front of the first 10 people we see and ask them how they feel about the robots they get and the experience of calling customer service. And you will get the same visceral reaction from all 10 of them. So it's a very well understood and relatable and big problem that is being met with, right? The solution to it is this voice AI technology, which is brand new. It's changing every day. And for technical and product people that want to be at the center of this sort of whole revolution, then we offer an opportunity to come in, and we've got millions of production calls going through the platform every week. It's very real, and it's very important for us strategically to always be at the cutting edge of this technology. And it's the responsibility of the people in the organization to be up with what's going on, be experimenting with things that are new. And for the right people, that's a dream.
That's awesome. Can you paint me a little picture of the team and like what it looks like today, where you guys located, how big you are, kind of what the breakdown of roles are?
Yeah, so we've got offices in New York, LA, and the UK, and we're 40 people today. We more than doubled the size of the team last year. We will continue to grow quickly this year. Yeah, it's a good group. It's good people.
Why the UK? New York, LA makes sense to me. What's about the UK office? Yeah.
So we started in the transportation industry, and it's still a meaningful part. Right, it's a big part of the business today, and that whole industry really runs out of the UK. All of the major platforms have their headquarters there, and as the business has matured and we've built out the team there, we decided it made sense to open an office.
Talk to me a little bit about the culture. Like, I'd love to understand like how you all work, like what the values you are, what makes you efficient, what do you look for in people when they come on, and what are you kind of espousing as, what makes sense within Flip?
Yeah. So every role requires skill set and culture fit. I think skill set is like, it just like has to be there.
Sure.
Really 95% of what we're recruiting for is culture fit. And we're looking for people that are sick of having four walls and a ceiling surrounding them and want to be a part of something and want to build something. We're looking for the people that are, they've been stuck and frustrated that nothing is happening, that nobody around them is doing anything, and they want to make an impact in the world and build something that's real and do it fast and all of those things. You're looking for somebody that has that burning fire and that energy, because at the end of the day, this thing, right, it's so small. There's so much, we just went through an interview cycle for product. And one of the things that I found myself repeating over and over was the team can sit down today and, put 10 best ideas on paper, and 8 of those 10 ideas are going to be a reality in the product 3 years from now. So the job of the PM is not actually discerning good ideas from bad ideas. It's discerning what are the right ideas for right now and the sequencing of those ideas. And it's where is the leverage? How can we make sure that the things that we're doing today are going to have the biggest impact and lay the foundation for the things that need to come after it? And it's tough, right? There's always way too much to do and too few people to do it. And in a lot of ways, when you enter the scale up stage of a startup, the hardest thing is winning short term and long term. If you only had to play one of the games, if you only had to hit this quarter, or if you only had to hit the goal for 5 years from now, decision making would be a lot easier, executing would be a lot easier, but that's not the rules of the game. The rules of the game are you have to win short term and long term. And it certainly is an extreme environment that requires the right type of people that really want that experience.
I would love to dive a little bit into that idea of like, you have a lot of ideas. Like, what does it look like in your organization how does an idea go from like an idea or a suggestion into actual production and shipped code? Like, what does that process look like for you all?
It depends on the idea. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things where it's see something, fix it, make it better. It's never, it never makes its way into a sprint planning cycle. It never sort of does any of that. And a lot of that is just right? You need that, right? There
Yep.
needs to be just like when people are going and they're building something and they see something that isn't right or should be done this way instead of that way, you need people that care enough to, just take it and grab it, and
Right.
they don't need to be celebrated, and they don't need, they're just going to do the right thing. So I think there's small decisions that are being made every day, and then larger decisions are, there's more discussion, it involves more people. I think generally you need a level of generalist, maybe not in skill set, but at least in care. Like you need salespeople that care about the product. They're the ones talking to customers every day. They need to be relaying back the insights or the ideas or the requirements. And then you need engineers that care about the customer, right? You need engineers that aren't just focused on the technology, but are focused on the outcome that we're using the technology to achieve, and have empathy for who our customer is and what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So, I think different decisions warrant different sort of decision-making processes, but ultimately you need people that are incentivized to, that care and want the right outcome for the business, and a lot of details take care of themselves.
I'd love to get, it seems like care and like empathy is really important in the people that you hire. Talk to me a little bit about that. How do you spot that in like a resume, or how do you spot that in the interview process? Do you guys spot that? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, a lot of it is in, my interviews with people, and I think most of the team's interviews with people, we're not asking that many questions. The questions that we're asking are not groundbreaking. There's no like Elon Musk riddle or whatever it is. It's just, tell me the story of how you got to where you are. Tell me what you're looking for in a next opportunity, and where do you see yourself in a decade? And you can hear the way that people talk about the things that they've done, how deeply they understand it, how they cared about it, what was magical about it versus, what were the frustrating aspects of it. When you hear them talk about the next role that they're looking for, and then when you hear people's vision for themselves, some people it's just, hey, I'm following my intuition. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to work with people that I'm excited to get up in the morning and work with. And I don't know where that's going to lead me in a decade. And there's nothing wrong with that answer. It's just getting, letting people talk and, just like doing what you're doing right now, right? Just kind of shut up for a few minutes and let the person talk, and you can learn a lot about them. And we know what we're looking for, and it's just let them tell their story.
Are there ways that you've seen candidates stand out, or attributes you've seen in the process that were like, oh, this is going to be a great candidate? Like, what are the things that candidates can do to stand out when interviewing at Flip or applying to Flip that they're not necessarily doing all the time?
We are abundantly transparent about what working at this company at this stage of the journey is and isn't in the interview process. And you can tell as the conversations go on whether as they learn more, they are getting more excited or they're getting less excited. And when you share some, dirty laundry and some non-glamorous parts of the job and they get more excited, that's usually a good indicator that it's, going to be a good fit, and that they understand what you're describing and that it's matching what they're looking for. So I think we really do view it as a matching game.
Makes sense.
Friends, family that have gone in totally different directions with their life. And there's not that, one is not better than the other. It's just getting the right people for the company and the right company for the people. And hopefully we're getting better and better at that with time.
So what's kind of, you've been basically in startups since you were in school, right? So this is kind of your entire career. Like, what has surprised you at this point, especially at the stage you guys are now, where you're post product market fit, scaling up? Like, any learnings or things that have surprised you, or any takes about building companies that you've kind of gleaned over the years?
Yeah. Our biggest, we went over our first 20 hires. None of the first 20 people that we hired are still at the company today. And we had zero appreciation for the importance or the level of difficulty that went into building a great team and a great culture. I've said the word culture probably 8 times already in this conversation. Culture was like we thought that was corporate hoo-ha, like, values on the wall in the sweet green when you're getting your salad kind of thing. And it unfortunately took 20 swing and misses for us to be like, hey, this we need to get real about the importance of the people that we have doing the work and at this company.
Well, is there like one specific thing or one practical thing that you guys did differently from that was like, okay, this is not working and we got to do something else? Like,
I don't think that there's a single hack. I think that it requires people take building their product really seriously. People take selling really seriously. You need to take building your team and your culture really seriously. And there's no single hack for sales. There's no single hack for building product. Anybody that tells you that there is doesn't get it or is selling something. So the thing that clicked for us was just, okay, this needs to be something that we take really seriously. It needs to be something that we put a lot of time into, right? You know what somebody cares about based on what they spend their time thinking about and what they spend their time doing. And it's, sure, certainly like putting your money where your mouth is, but it's really putting your calendar where your mouth is and putting like brain cycles where your mouth is. And I think that was really what changed.
That's awesome. Well, I think we're at time, Brian. This has been really cool hearing about Flip and what you all are up to. If people want to learn more about the company, where should they go?
flipcx.com. And we are quite active, especially on LinkedIn. Shout out Christina, who runs our LinkedIn page. I think I told her the other day, it is the best B2B LinkedIn page that I have seen in a very long time, at least in, the window into LinkedIn that I have. So yeah, check us out there. Reach out if you're interested in being a part of it in any way
Cool. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Why Work Here. Ready to find your next role or discover top talent? Visit us at wellfound.com.